tells you immediately that that medicine, that herb is used in medicine, that is medicine. Officinalis. If you see officinalis or vulgaris, officinalis, either of those on any plant label, that tells you that plant is medicine. Now, why would this be called lemon balm? Well, the Romans carried it into England and Ireland. Lemon balm has been in use by the Irish for thousands of years. Put a balm on it, lip balm. It treats Newcastle disease, herpes simplex, cold sores. The leaves are poultices for sores. It's strongly antiviral for Newcastle disease, herpes, and mumps. It's sold in Europe to treat cold sores and genital herpes. It's backed by clinical studies. Like extracts of rosemary and sage, again, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme, it slows the breakdown of acetylcholine, a compound which is deficient in Alzheimer's disease. How many of you know what Alzheimer's disease is? It's a terrible disease. And these herbs that your ancestors used for thousands of years protect against Alzheimer's disease. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Lemon balm. 8 antiviral compounds against herpes are found in this little plant. And you can grow this for $4.99. This is a deal. This will not cost you 80 bucks. $4.99, and use it as a defense compound. It has 12 anti-inflammatory components. It has antibacterial, antihistaminic, antispasmodic, on and on. Lemon balm. Go get it at your nearest garden pharmacy. Because I don't think you're going to get it the way the Germans get it and the way the Canadians prescribe it. So buy your own. Put it in a pot in your back. Put it in your window. You already have something that will act as a defense compound. The next item is, what does everyone run out of? What does everyone run out of? Thyme. Thymus vulgaris. Thyme is antispasmodic, antimicrobial, antioxidant, and the German approved this herb, Thymus vulgaris, for a treatment of bronchitis. Were we sleeping? What happened to America? Your ancestors use this every day. Thymus vulgaris. Again, $3.99, $2.99 in your salad every day, in your meat every day. Thymus vulgaris. It's officially and scientifically confirmed to prevent bronchitis. They're prescribing it in plant form in Europe. Wild alum. What is this? Did anyone guess what this is? In Ireland, it's known as, you're going to have to help me with Irish Gaelic. I study Scottish Gaelic, but not Irish. C-L-U-A-S-C-H-A-O-I-N. It means narrow ear or goat's ear in Irish Gaelic. Does anyone know it? It's also called cuckoo pint. Lords and ladies. It's a native of Ireland, and this wild arum is found in Ireland, where the root has been roasted and is edible. It's used as a substitute for arrowroot. The bright berries are poisonous to children. It's a wild plant of woods and hedgerows. Places such as Belfield, Killiney Hill, the root looks like a small potato. So if you're familiar with it, this used to grow wild in southern Dublin. It's used for the treatment of ringworm. It's used as an ointment for cleansing your blemishes externally. And believe it or not, the Chinese use it for swelling and bruising externally. The Chinese got it from the British Isles, and they've been using it for quite some time now, while the rest of us have forgotten. We put it in our yard and use it as an ornament. That's what I did until I started studying a little more about Scottish and Ireland. So, how many of you ever seen this growing in the bogs of Ireland? It's pretty wild. They call them lords and ladies. But this is, what is a fairy lantern? They used to say that this little spike coming up, the flower, was the fairy lantern. So this is to answer the question, what is a fairy lantern? What has been in use for 7,000 years, but after all of those years still makes your breath smell? Why? Exactly. Garlic, wild onion, something that, I thought I brought it with me, but apparently not. All of you pretty much know what that looks like. Now, what is so great about garlic? Well, it's scientifically proven to lower blood pressure, lower your cholesterol. It's antibacterial and antifungal. So, eat a couple of cloves of garlic every day. Just brush your teeth afterwards. Or have some peppermint tea. Peppermint tea, lemon balm to sweeten things up. So, that's what we're going to say. And then, what lovely yellow flower could be given over the counter in Ireland up until the year 2000, but is now prescribed?
St. John's wort.
That's it, St. John's wort. All right, yay! Hypercium. Hypercium. The genius is good for any plant. This genius, which is a native to Ireland, is healthy for everyone. It's not just used for the treatment of depression. It's also used for its antibacterial properties. It also acts as a topical remedy for wounds. So if you see this in the field, put it in as a poultice. It will help you there too. Also, for the treatment of alcoholism, that's the latest study they're doing. I'm not sure how they're going to do with that. That's experimental. But I can tell you the two things that they actually do use it for that have been scientifically confirmed, and that's as for wounds and for depression. Now, the next one is, after we've told you about that one, is what North American lawnweed has vitamins B1, B3, B5, B6, E, K, and C, will protect against a mild yeast infection and will still make a great wine? Dandelion. And you know what? Can you believe that that is actually becoming endangered in Ireland? This dandelion is a native. It's a native Ireland. And these leaves can do so much for you because dandelion, or Taraxacum officinale, again, what are the two words that you look for when you're buying plants to make sure you're getting the medicine? Vulgaris and officinalis. When you see those, you've got medicine in your hand. That's why they named it that way. They did that deliberately. Again, they're coding you. They're saying this is the office of medicine, officinale. This is the real thing. They're coding you. They're passing on a code so you will remember that that plant is medicine. Now, the treatment of liver bile flow disturbances, treatment of alcoholism, that's the liver bile thing. Root is hypoglycemic, which means it stimulates appetite. So if you've got someone who's having trouble, eating, their loss of appetite, you chop up this root. Tastes pretty good. The leaves in it should be in your salad as often as possible. Wash them really well. It works against a very weak yeast infection for women, Candida albicans. It's anti-inflammatory. And in Germany, boy, don't you love those Germans? It stimulates appetite. They also use it for dyspepsia. So it's actually prescribed over the counter. Really, can you believe it? Here we are, running around our lawns going, if I see one more dandelion, I'm going to scream. So we're running around trying to get rid of dandelion. And what is it? It's a herb. It's a class of medicine. It is literally something that we should be eating every day. Our ancestors did. Why didn't we? I don't know. The next one, plantain Plantago major. It stops bleeding just like yarrow, Achillea milliform. It's a confirmed antimicrobial. It stimulates the healing process. This, and again, what is this? So, what's the plant I'm looking at? Doesn't that look familiar? Yeah. That's that weed we'd all like to get out of our yard. Yeah?
Milkweed?
No, no. This is Plantago major, and it comes from Ireland. It was brought over here by our very savvy ancestors. Okay? The common name is plantain. You know, the banana, like, you know, you guys have heard of plantains, which are shaped like a banana. So that hint is on there. But this is actually in your yard. Now, why would I be bringing you a weed? Well, because if you make a poultice with this, you can stop bleeding. And again, in an emergency, it is very nice to know these plants. You know, I saw a guy, he was fixing up a piece of broken glass, and he was showing me all these cuts. So I introduced him to this plant because the guy's always on the road. He doesn't have time to get to a doctor, doesn't really know how to fix up his wounds. And when he's, you know, he showed me the mess on his arms, I was just like, wow, you know? And so I dug up a couple of these, I stuffed them in a jar, and I said, you'll find them anywhere. And he did. And these will stop bleeding. A poultice of this weed will stop bleeding. And your ancestors, the Irish, knew this. They had this growing in Ireland. And they also have what we all know to be, do you guys know what this is? Yarrow. Yarrow. Achillea milliform. Why did we name it after Achilles? We talked about warriors. Achilles was said to have been immortal. Well, let's talk about why. Let's go back to the Druid thing and examine that a little bit. His mom was an herb wife. She knew all about plants. Well, this plant right here, when applied externally as a poultice, will stop bleeding. Well, in those days, you're talking about 2,000 years ago, to stop bleeding was a small miracle. So this guy's out there, and it seemed like no matter how much he got wounded, the man could not die. I mean, Achilles was like, he must be immortal, right? I mean, that was the thinking back then. People believed in magic. They were superstitious. They hadn't met God yet. They didn't know all these things. So they immediately assumed he must be immortal. Well, he wasn't. This guy was just a smart, savvy warrior with a really smart mom and carried around yarrow and everything else under his tunic. And he was able to save his soldiers on the field. And believe me, if you worked for a guy who could save you from what should have been a wound that would have ended your life, and you worked for that guy, and all of a sudden you're up and walking, you're going to have that guy as your employer for life. I mean, what kind of health insurance is that? So this is yarrow, and it's a very important plant for that very important reason. The other and the very last plant that I want to tell you about that your ancestors would have used. And this always surprises people when I tell them this. But our early ancestors, when they came here, had a lot of free exchange with the Indians. They shared knowledge back and forth. They shared ideas about plants and what to do with them. And they did it in such a tremendously wonderful way. My ancestors in the Midwest, they were some of the first pioneers. They're registered in the Pioneer Journal of somewhere or another. My sister does all the genealogy for that. But while she was there as a pioneer, our group of ancestors that were there shared knowledge with the Native Americans. They shared knowledge about rose hips, which are very high in vitamin C. Rose hip teum, certainly you've heard of it. Chamomile grew wild in the sandhills. And most importantly, there's a plant called echinacea. How many of you know about the coneflower? This is our North American native. And it